I'm giving out one bet for every single fight this weekend at UFC Baku. If you've been following along, you know that we've absolutely crushed this show. Last weekend at UFC Atlanta, another 8 bets hit on the card. Now, there was 11 fights total, considering one of them fell off due to a no contest, and we hit 8 bets out of 11. I mean, you do the math. That's a super good hit rate. Had some good plays in there. Phil Rowe, underdog of the week. I mean, Wellmaker under 2 rounds was like minus 150. Absolutely free money. Edmund Shabazian, free on the money line. I look to do it again this weekend, man. I like this card. It's a fun one. We got a good main event, and we're going to jump right into it. But first, if you do want to support the channel, support me, just use my promo codes on some of these DFS apps. This is just giving you an extra chance to win even more money, and all you got to do is just sign up using code Nolan on Better Picks, and you're going to have a chance to 100x your money. Just go deposit 10, 15 bucks, see if you like it, make a lineup. You're picking over-unders on significant strikes, takedowns, fantasy score, finishes, all that stuff. And like I said, if you can hit the 8 leg for 100x, you could turn 10 bucks into $1,000. So just use code Nolan on Better Picks. I'm going to have it linked in the bio. Now, without any further ado, let's get into it. The Super Bowl of MMA of the UFC this year. Hamdi Abdelwahab taking on Mo Usman. This one's tough, boys, because you look at Hamdi, man. He's only 4-0 in mixed martial arts. He's in the UFC. A lot of his fights come in the UFC. You know, he's got a wrestling background. He's an Olympic-level wrestler. And then Mo Usman, no slouch on the ground in that department as well. I mean, he's brothers with Kamaru Usman. You know, they spend a lot of time on the mat, and these guys know how to wrestle, or at least for Mo, he knows how to defend. He's a big, strong guy, very athletic. But at the end of the day, man, I would sweat taking either of these guys because you look at Hamdi, he got outlanded pretty badly in his last fight against Jamal Pogues. And the judges gave him a unanimous decision. I mean, he got outstruck 70-44, and he only had 1 takedown in the fight. Before that, he had the no contest against Dontel Mays, which he won the fight, but popped for some steroids there. He was on everything in the book. I mean, this guy was juiced to the gills. But, you know, he didn't really look terrible coming back off of the steroid after being clean, at least, if he is clean. So I'm not too concerned about anything like that. What I am concerned about with him is that he's relatively low volume. He doesn't really throw, you know, boxing combinations. He doesn't really have a striking style. He's just trying to catch you with those big shots. He's going to be a marauder and just jolt forward, throwing these big hooks. Whereas Mo Usman's more of a, it's crazy I'm even going to call him a technical striker, but he fights decent off of his jab. The thing with Mo Usman and why I wouldn't really take him at this tight of a line is because the guy looks so uncomfortable on the feet. His striking, it's like he's scared to get hit, so he's not going to fully get into his form, or you know, he's not going to fully let that right hand go. He just kind of likes to poke and prod with that jab. And when he does get hit, he kind of like he's like stunned. He stutters all the time all over the cage. Not that he's hurt or anything. I just don't think he likes getting hit. I don't think he's going to implement the offensive wrestling here. But the one thing I think both of these guys have in common is that they are pretty durable. I don't think they're really going to go out there and get knocked out by a lot of guys at the bottom of the division. And if they want to go to the wrestling, neither of these guys are probably pulling off a submission, so they're going to waste a lot of time. So if you're on Hamdi here and you want to take him as a bet, I think a better bet is just to take this fight goes to decision at minus 180, minus 190 range. Even up to like minus 200, I think it's good. That's what it's at right now, is minus 180, I believe, or it was yesterday when I was making all these. And again, I think there's going to be a little bit of cage pushing here, and at distance, I don't think either of these guys are landing super big shots that are going to put the other one out. So I'm taking this fight to go the distance between Hamdi and Mo Usman, the 2 goats of the heavyweight division. All right, next fight up, Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Azat Maksum. This is you know, after watching Maksum versus Charles Johnson, he dropped CJ in the first round with a big right hand, wobbled him a few more times, kind of emptied the gas tank. I think he got really excited, had somewhat of an adrenaline dump, but the guy showed he has a little bit of power in his hands. He's pretty athletic, moves really well, and he can wrestle a little bit himself. But you know, when I watched him against Charles Johnson as the fight went on, it was actually Charles Johnson who's has decent wrestling, but it was Charles landing the takedowns, getting a little bit of control time when it really mattered down the stretch, and was stealing away minutes and ultimately won that fight against Azat. And it was his debut. I'll give that to him. But, Going up against Tajir, that's a different level of wrestler compared to a Charles Johnson. Is Tajir striking amazing? I mean, I wouldn't call it great, but it's not bad and it is effective. He doesn't really like getting kicked in the leg. We've seen that in previous fights. But, once he feels uncomfortable on the feet, Tajir does do a good job of getting in, putting his opponents against the cage, working to the back, looking for trips, looking to get the fight to the ground. And while in the beginning of this fight, it might be pretty close in that realm between these two, I think as it goes on, Tajir is going to find more and more success with the positions he's getting. Even possibly finding opportunities to get the submission. Charles Johnson had Maksum in a deep submission in round 3, and he let go of it. And right when he let go, Maksum kind of went limp and he kind of stumbled backwards like he wasn't all there. Like if Charles Johnson left that choke in for another 5-10 seconds, he's probably winning that fight by sub. So it's hard to tell if Tajir is going to be able to pull it off or if he just grinds this thing out to a decision. So I'm going to take Tajir double chance by sub or decision. I've yet to see what the odds are on that. They might be a little chalky. But again, if you look at this fight, there's not a lot of great plays to make on this fight in particular. So yeah, we're going to go with Tajir by submission or decision. That's going to be my official play for this fight. All right, next fight up. Irina Alekseeva, the Russian Ronda, taking on Claudia Sygula. Man, I'm just not high, first of all, on either girl, but I just don't think Claudia Sygula is that good whatsoever. I really don't think she's UFC level, like maybe not yet at least. She came into the UFC against Melissa Mullins and eventually just got put on her back. She did not know how to get up and gets ground and pound into her, on her way to a TKO. Now, Melissa Mullins is good on the ground and has decent control and is pretty aggressive with the ground and pound. So, Melissa Mullins will do that to girls, but Claudia just looked lost, man. Got outstruck 38-12, got taken down twice. Now, when I look at it, Irina Alekseeva, I don't think Alekseeva is the level of wrestler or has the same type of capabilities to get the fight to the ground that Melissa Mullins does. But I do think Alekseeva is a girl who is very durable, is willing to walk through the fire to get to certain positions, like putting her opponents up against the cage, and then she's going to roll for knee bars. She's going to do a lot of crafty things to catch her opponents off guard. And, going up against a lower level girl in Sygula, I think some of it could work, if I'm being honest. Alekseeva, too, on the feet. She's not real technical or a great striker, but she's got a little pop just because she's, so aggressive. She's always throwing and fighting downhill. And I think eventually she's either going to just overwhelm her, tire her out, gas her out with these punches, or the opportunity for her to get the fight to the ground is going to present itself. And once it hits the ground, I think Irina Alekseeva is going to find her way into submission attempts all day long against the girl in Claudia, who just showed to not really have a great ground game whatsoever. And I believe Sygula has obviously been finished by TKO to Melissa Mullins, but I believe she's been submitted once already in her career. She's only 6-2. And yeah, both those losses come by finish. One submission, which was in 2021 to a girl who was only 1-0 in her pro career, Karolina Sobek, and it came from a scarf hold arm lock. I mean, those are the type of chokes and submissions that Irina Alekseeva is liking to go for. She's always rolling for knees, arm bars, all that stuff. So, at the end of the day, maybe Alekseeva just wants to play around on the feet and gets caught from Sygula because that's what Sygula wants to do, is just keep it on the feet and stand and bang. So instead of taking Alekseeva by finish, I'm going to take this fight to end inside the distance because it's plus money. It's plus 115 right now. I mean, maybe you sprinkle on Alekseeva by sub because if she does get it to the ground, I think those opportunities are going to pop up. But at the end of the day, man, these are two girls, one who's been finished in her losses, both of her losses, and Alekseeva who's shown, she can pull off submissions and finishes too. So taking this fight to end inside the distance, plus 115. That's my pick for this play. All right, next fight. Speaking of Melissa Mullins, taking on Daria Zalesnikova. This is another one that I'm really intrigued to see what happens. Not because it's a great fight or anything, just because I've got it in my head what's going to happen here based off of these two previous fights they've had with other girls in the organization. I mean, you look at Melissa Mullins. She went in there against a Nora Cornell, and first of all, I didn't think she looked bad up until she started to get tired a little bit. but she was not eating the body shots well whatsoever. And Nora Kolnol is a good kickboxer, is a pretty talented striker. You could just tell Mullins did not want any part of it, and eventually took, I didn't even think it was that crazy of a knee to the body, covered up. That was the end of the fight. I mean, if that happens here and she gets caught on the feet, like I could see Zalesnikova finding big shots because she is a good striker. It's kind of the opposite. Where she's going to struggle is when Melissa Mullins is on top of her and taking her down and looking for submissions, ground and pound, like we've seen Melissa Mullins be able to do before. She has vicious ground and pound. She's got, I believe she's a pretty decent grappler. Doesn't really have any submissions yet on her record. But Daria Zalesnikova just fought Aylan Perez. And that fight was like minus 200 and something to go over 2.5 rounds, because a lot of people either thought Perez was going to get, boxed up a little on the feet, but was durable enough to survive, or she was going to land takedowns and just grind it out and stall out a win. Aylan Perez took her down with ease and submitted her via arm triangle in round number 1, like 3.5 minutes in. So, yeah, I mean, if Aylan Perez is pulling off submissions that easily against a Daria Zalesnikova, I think Melissa Mullins can at least get to those positions, rain down ground and pound, wait for the neck or the arm triangle or arm bar or whatever to present itself and grab it. And if not, if she gets one takedown, she's probably going to work her way to mount. She's going to land the ground and pound. Like I see another finish coming in this fight. And it's not often where all these women's MMA matches and on one card I see finishes coming, but this is one that I do. So I'm going to take Mullins and Zalesnikova plus 110 to end inside the distance. Let me double check those odds. Sorry, I just got a piece of paper in front of me right now. Let me go back to the old sports book and check the previous bets. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking at two girls with opposite skill sets. Melissa Mullins probably a better striker than Zalesnikova is a grappler in their own rights. So wherever this fight ends up, I think the other one is going to have a really, really big advantage to the point they could find a finish. So, yeah, we're looking at... Oh, wow, the under 2.5 is chalked now. Let's see. Under 2.5, minus 125. All right, so fight to end inside the distance, minus 150. It was minus 140, minus 135 the other day, but I mean, minus 150. Like I said, I really do think one of these girls is going to take over, so we're going to stick with it. This fight to end inside the distance as well, that's going to be the official pick for this play. All right, next fight up, Ismail Naurdiev taking on Jung Young Park. And, Naurdiev, you look at his body of work and his resume, and he seems like he's going to be a lot older than he is because of how many fights he's got on his record. Like, this guy has been a professional fighter for a long, long time. Actually had one stint already in the UFC that didn't work out, and now he's back. And, in his welcome back fight, they gave him Bruno Silva, a guy who's been vocal about having anxiety and really not being all in. And Naurdiev did, exactly what he's supposed to do in that fight. He dominated. He beat him up with the striking. He put him against the cage, looked for takedowns. I mean, this guy's got 31 professional fights. He's not lacking on experience where, Jung Young Park has a lot of fights as well. He's 18-6. These guys have both been beaten a little bit. But when I look at Naurdiev, you see 31 professional fights and you're like, oh man, this guy's got to be mid-30s, 33, 34. He's 28 years old. So, when he was first in the UFC, he fought Sean Brady, which was his last fight. What did he go in the UFC? He went 3-2 in the UFC, so it's not like he got skunked and shut out and couldn't buy a win. I mean, he's fighting guys like Sean Brady in 2020. Like, that's a tough go of it. That's a loss you learn a lot about. And then he had to work his way back up on the regional scene. And then, like I said, came in against Bruno Silva. Like, at only 28 years old and having to go through all that, I think there's plenty of time for you to get better. I don't think he's the same fighter he was when he fought Sean Brady or the first time he was in the UFC. Is he miles and miles better? Maybe not. But Jung Young Park, while he is an extremely solid fighter and a super tough out, he's not exactly going in there and fighting the best of the best by any means. I mean, he beat Brad Tavares by split decision, but Brad Tavares is older. Brad Tavares, is relatively lower volume. I mean, he's a good striker, but that's kind of what he does. Like, if you can't take Brad Tavares down, he's going to go to a very close decision with you, and that's what happened with Jung Young Park. They gave it to Jung Young Park. A lot of people thought Tavares should have got his hand raised, but we're talking about a guy who's way out of his prime in Tavares. Before that, he beats Andre Muniz loses to Andre Muniz by split decision. I mean, Muniz has had a tough run of it too. That guy got TKO'd by Paul Craig. Brendan Allen submitted him. Ikram Alekseeva sent him to the Shadow Realm. I mean, winning over Jung Young Park is Muniz's only win in, quite a while, and it was a split decision. But, he had some big moments there where he was in dominant positions and everything. Before that, man, he's beaten Albert Duraev, Dennis Talulin, Joseph Holmes, no longer in the UFC. Eric Anders, split decision win. Most people thought Eric Anders won the fight and then loses to Gregory Rodriguez. So I'd say Gregory Rodriguez, definitely his highest level of competition outside of, Anthony Hernandez earlier on in his UFC career, which he lost, by the way, by submission. So it's not like Jung Young Park is out here fighting the best in the world by any means. Is Naurdiev not the best in the world? No, but Jung Young Park has lost to guys of similar caliber. I'm not really fully convinced that, Naurdiev is, I guess, at a UFC level where he's going to push his way into the top of the division. But I think he has gotten better, and I think he can take a round off a Park here. So if you've got a book where you can play the spread plus 3.5, that's going to be my play for this. But if not, I think there's still a little meat on the bone, at plus 150 and up. Anything closer to pick 'em, I'd stay away. But, if you can get plus 158 still, I think that's a decent shot on Ismail Naurdiev because, he's got faster hands, probably going to be a better striker. If he can just keep up with the cardio, he's going to make it super, super close. And, like we said, Parks has gone to a lot of very close decisions. So Ismail Naurdiev plus 3.5 spread. Take a dog shot if you have to here. I don't think it's a bad dog look whatsoever. We'll see what happens, though. All right, next fight up, we are getting Elliott taking on Seok Yang Ko. I don't know if I said that right or not, but I remember this kid on the Contender Series last year because he went up against this dude that was super big, super athletic, and explosive for the division, was knocking out everybody, right? But what Ko has is a very, very technical striking arsenal, and it took him far in that fight. Like, he was harder to hit. He was pretty durable in that match, and he has decent cardio as well. He kept his striking so technical that it frustrated his opponent. Eventually, he was able to back him up against the cage, land the bigger shots, have way, way bigger moments, and just show that he's the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. And being explosive and athletic wasn't enough to beat him, and that he is, somewhat of a higher-level fighter. Now, in this fight, Elliott is kind of on a tear. So I think it's going to be a really tough UFC debut for him because Elliott can fight anywhere this fight goes. If you want to stand and strike with him, Elliott's improving. He's getting better. He's shown that he's got a little power in his hands. But, if he starts losing the striking battle, I feel like Elliott is just going to go in, look for takedowns, push him up against the cage to the point where Ko starts to get really tired. I mean, again, this is his UFC debut in front of a live crowd. There's going to be a ton of adrenaline. Unless he's just wise and experienced beyond what any of us know. I just think Elliott at some point is going to take this fight over. But I also think, looking at Ko, let me see how many times he's 11-2. Let me see how many times. Yeah, he's been knocked out twice. So both of his losses have come by knockout against some guys over, I don't even know, double GFC 11. A guy named Han Seul Kim knocked him out in round 1. And then the other guy was a former UFC fighter back in 2018, Sasha Palatnikov, who had no real success in the UFC, also knocked him out, but in round 2. So, Elliott, I think while the fight's on the feet, he's going to have his opportunities to land big shots. Basel Hafez was about as durable and tough as they come. Win a full 3 rounds with JDM, and ate some massive shots and was able to survive it and not get knocked out and make that a dogfight. And Elliott went out there and put the lights out later in the fight. That's the thing I like about Elliott too, is he's dangerous all 3 rounds. He's got good cardio. I think that's a really, really tough style to come into the UFC and try to beat in your debut. So, yeah, I think does win the fight. But for my pick in this one, I'm going to take Elliott by finish at plus 150. I just think that's the way it goes. I'm not really thinking that Oban's going to be chasing submissions here. I think he's going to go for the ground and pound if he gets in that position, or he's just going to, beat him up standing until he either finds a knockout or TKO. So there's levels to this. Oban has shown that he's on that level, and he's getting better every time out and more dangerous. I think the momentum kind of stays with Oban here, and he gets it going. So Oban by finish plus 150. It gives you that opportunity to cover the submission if that's something that presents itself too. So that's the official play for this fight. I think it happens. I think he comes out strong. So let's cash that dog money. All right, next fight up. Bogdan Grad taking on Muhammad Naimov. I've seen a lot of love for Bogdan Grad this weekend, and I totally get it, man. The guy has that grindy style where he's very tough, he's durable, and if you let him hang around long enough and you gas out, he'll look for finishes, he'll secure them, he'll fight you till the very end, tooth and nail. Whereas, we've kind of seen Naimov slow down in certain spots. Naimov isn't a world beater by any means, but he does have a little power in his hands. He's fairly well-rounded. Like, he'll put you up against the cage and, wrestle you up a little bit. The one thing I just really don't like about him is his cardio and his sense of urgency to just go out there and do damage and try to put some of these guys away. I mean, we've seen him find finishes before, but I was honestly a little bit disappointed in the Khan Offley fight because he just slowed down and almost felt like he was coasting to that decision win. He beat Eric Silva after there was a freak leg injury in round one. The Nathaniel Wood win as a big dog was great. But again, he has that style where he's just trying to put you up against the cage, grind it out. And, that's good enough for him if he can find the win like that. But, his opponent here in Grad, if Grad is able, not stuff every takedown or, even implement takedowns of his own, I think would be a decent way to go here just to try to slow down Naimov. I just think Grad is going to get better as the rounds go on. So I'm not really confident in playing Naimov at this price, a sizable favorite here as a parlay piece or anything like that. But again, what's making me second guess myself on taking a Bogdan Grad as an underdog is just what's happened in some of his previous fights. Yes, he beat Lucas Alexander, but again, Lucas Alexander was winning the whole entire fight until he gassed out in round number 2, and Grad was able to find the finish. Split decision with Michael Aswell. We just saw Aswell come into the UFC and just not look great in his debut, although it was on short notice against Balaji. Aswell's just a guy who, doesn't seem to really hit that hard, throws a lot of empty volume, and a lot of people thought Aswell deserved to get the win over Grad. Grad wasn't looking great towards the end of that fight. And before that, man, he lost by a first-round finish to Tom Nolan, and other guys are just wins over people you probably never heard of. So I am interested to see what happens in this spot, but I'm not confident on either side to take either one of them in a play. But what I do think is this fight goes the distance. I don't really think Naimov is going to gas out to a point where Grad is finishing him. And I do think that Grad, outside of getting knocked out by Tom Nolan or finished by Tom Nolan, this guy's been able to eat some punishment, eat some damage like he did against Lucas Alexander, and just be able to survive. And I also think between these two, as the fight goes on, we're going to see more and more grappling exchanges. I really don't think either one of them are pulling off a sub. Yes, Felipe Lima was able to sub Naimov later in the fight, but I don't think Bogdan Grad is that type of grappler on the mat. So I'm going to take this fight to go to a decision, and it's plus 115, so it's more dog money. There's a lot of dog money on this card I'm going to be taking on this show, but this one, again, I think these guys are going to grind it out to the very end. So we'll take that plus money and move on. All right, next fight up. Nazim Sajikov, Nicholas Motta. I've seen some people on Nicholas Motta here too, and I get it from the aspect of this guy has big power in his hands. And, we saw Slava Claus come out here and land some big shots on Nazim Sajikov, but the level of, technical striking between Motta and a Slava Claus is worlds apart. Slava is one of the best strikers in the division right now. Might not be the most powerful or, best fighters, but his striking from a technical aspect is super good. For Nazim Sajikov, we've seen him be able to eat shots and keep fighting and overcome bad situations to come back and get the win. So I'm not really seeing a Nicholas Motta finish by any means, especially later in the fight. If he does do it, it's got to be early. But for Nazim Sadzhikov, the guy will start hot sometimes, but he likes to kind of take his time and feel out the fight. He'll get into that flow state early in the fight, but he seems to almost be overconfident or a little bit cocky to the point where he just lets these fights go longer and longer and longer. I think this one goes over 1.5 rounds, if I'm being honest. What would scare me is a Nazim round 1 KO. But when we saw Nicholas Motta go long in his last fight, he had to eat some big shots at times. I don't think his chin is completely dust. We've seen him finished against a few people, but the elbow from Manuel Torres would knock out most people in this division. Just an insanely good strike from Manuel Torres. Going against Maheshate, 3 rounds. Maheshate's got some pop in his shots, and we've seen Maheshate knocked out too, and Nicholas Motta wasn't able to finish him. So from Motta's standpoint, I think this goes over 1.5 rounds. From Nazim Sadzhikov, I think he's just going to work himself into this fight, and if a finish comes, I do think it's later on in the fight. So we'll see what happens. Plus money on over 1.5 though. This is an over 1.5 in MMA. I don't hardly ever take under 1.5s unless it's just the line is completely off and you're getting a Malcolm Wellmaker or somebody like that in there, which I don't think either of these guys are. So at plus money, man, yeah, over 1.5 rounds, which is sitting at plus, let me double check for you guys. I believe it's like plus 110. Oh, yeah, plus 110. Or no, sorry, minus 130. The under was plus 110. Minus 130 on an over 1.5, sign me up. The 2 guys have shown that a majority of their fights can go over that. All right, next fight up, we are getting a good one here in Miktabek Oralbai and Tofik Musayev. I think Oralbai is a talented grappler, and when guys aren't up to that level, he's going to win a lot of fights just from making it ugly, making it dirty, getting you tired, because not that he has a phenomenal gas tank, I just think Oralbai is able to fight through adversity and just kind of push through being tired or exhausted. And we've seen on some of his fights, even in his last fight, he was getting beat up badly, and he just never quit on himself. He fought through adversity, got to the final bell, and, he ended up losing. But again, Rombeski is a super dangerous fighter who hits like a truck. And if he was able to take that damage, had his orbital bone shattered, it was nasty. Able to fight through that kind of adversity, you got to give him some extra points for toughness there. But offensively, man, if he can't get the grappling going, he seems to get tired pretty fast, but he also just doesn't really have that striking arsenal, which is going to change the course of a fight, especially fighting a guy like Tofik, who is a really good striker, who's a very good counter striker, seems to take his time. And although I think Tofik's time to really do something in the UFC is kind of past, I think he's 35 years old. The time to sign him would have been 5 or 6 years ago when he was fighting in Bellator and these other organizations. But I do think he's still a good fighter. I do think he's going to have the striking advantage. If he can stuff the takedowns just a little bit, I think he's going to make this fight extremely close. But how I see it going is round 1, he's going to give up a couple of takedowns. Round 2, they're going to get harder for Oralbai to get, and Tofik's going to start landing a little bit of striking. And round 3, it's going to be up for whoever's got more energy left in the tank and can implement their game. But again, I think this fight goes over 1.5 rounds. I couldn't find a bet I really, really liked in this fight. I almost took Musayev, but again, you're only getting, plus 130 on a debuter against Oralbai, who, has a game plan and a skill set to make this a gritty, tough fight for you. I just didn't like it. It's not a big enough number for me. So I'm going to take a safer one, in my opinion. Over 1.5 rounds, minus 200, minus 215. I think it's kind of been going back and forth between those. Yeah, I think it hits, man. I think these guys are both tough. Oralbai, obviously, extremely tough, showing in his last fight. And I think Tofik is good enough on the ground and in the grappling defense to where he's not going to get submitted early in the fight. So over 1.5 rounds for this fight. That's the official play. I think it cashes. Use it as a parlay piece. In my opinion, I think that one's going to hit. All right, next fight up, Curtis Blaydes and Rizvan Kuniev. Kuniev is a guy who definitely used to be on steroids, was a lot more shredded up and looked in a lot better shape back when he was on the juice, got off of it. And not that he's like not a good fighter or anything now. It's just, I don't know. He goes in there against Renan Ferreira, gets overturned to a no contest. I mean, he beat Renan Ferreira, the PFL's golden child, or was golden child until he got knocked out by Francis Ngannou. 6'8", big dude. So, yeah, I mean, if he has that in his back pocket, those skill sets where he can beat guys like that, sure, he can make it close with Curtis Blaydes. But, after getting off the juice, you got to come into the UFC in your debut and fight a guy who has fought champions at the top of the division. I mean, Curtis Blaydes, yeah, he's been finished by some people. Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich. He beat Jailton Almeida. So he's fighting a lot of guys who are just better than Kuniev, in my opinion, especially unjuiced Kuniev. So if Kuniev keeps the fight standing, it might be somewhat close. I just think Kuniev's a relatively low volume. I don't really think he hits like incredibly hard for a heavyweight. I mean, he's knocking out some guys on, Eagle FC and stuff like that. But going up against the Curtis Blaydes, maybe you catch him on the chin because Blaydes is shown to be chinny, but is he chinny or is he just getting finished by, the top guys in the division who do hit hard? I don't know. But I do like that Blaydes has the wrestling to fall back on, although he hasn't exactly gone to it a whole lot in the last few years. His striking is good enough for me that he's going to stand in there, maybe have to eat a few shots, but I think he's also going to give a few to Kuniev here and just show that he's the better mixed martial artist. He's been, at the top of the division a lot longer, fighting better guys his whole entire career, and I think the experience will take him far, especially being that this is Kuniev's debut, and this is just a tough ask to have to fight a guy all the way this high in the rankings for your first fight in the UFC. So I'm taking Curtis Blaydes as a parlay piece. I just think he's going to show him that there's levels to this. That's what I'm rocking with, because outside of that, I just couldn't really find a great bet on this fight, and that's kind of the case with some of these, but yeah, give me Curtis Blaydes here. All right, next fight, Rafael Fiziev taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. For me, like, these two's career trajectories are just going a little bit of the opposite direction. You got Fiziev, who's lost 3 in a row, but, obviously against some of the best guys in the world. Justin Gaethje took the last fight on short notice. You can't really knock him for that. He had a good first round, but that's about all he had. You could tell how tired he got and was just eating big shots, wasn't getting out of the way like he used to. And, you could chalk that up to maybe some injuries and he's not quite as fast as he once was, or you could chalk it up to just being short noticed after a long layoff. Either one, it's Justin Gaethje at the end of the day, so no real skin off your back there. Before that was the injury against Mateusz Gamrot, and before that was the closer fight with Justin Gaethje. 3-fight losing streak, tough fights though. Ignacio Bahamondes putting together a little bit of a winning streak now. 3-fight win streak for him. That one loss was Ludovic Klein before that. It's not a terrible loss whatsoever. I mean, Ludovic just got manhandled by Mateusz Gamrot, but Gamrot does that to people who don't have great grappling. And, I don't think Ignacio here is really going to have to worry about the grappling whatsoever. I think this is going to be a standing, striking type matchup, which, outside of fighting Manuel Torres, he's had fights where he's had to be cautious of the takedowns. Jalen Turner went and did it, ended up finding a submission in that fight for Ignacio, but he had to be careful of getting in those grappling exchanges and trying to keep the fight standing. Here, I think he's just got to be really offensive minded in the striking. He's not going to worry about the grappling and the takedowns and all of that. And when you look at the how these guys measure up against each other, you're looking at 6'3" versus 5'8". I mean, the lightweight division, that is an insanely tall guy who's long, who's got some muscle and power in his hands. And he's 27 years old. He's just coming into his own. I think all the momentum is on Ignacio's side. People are going to say that Rafael, he's from Azerbaijan, so, fighting in front of his home crowd, that's all good and well. But again, the crowd's not going to be able to fight for you when you've got this long of a striker who's extremely talented, in my opinion, holds some power as well, and is just getting better and better each time out. Ignacio's kicks, seemed to really be, a difference maker in some of his fights. He gauges range with him very well. And going up against Fiziev, I think that Fiziev might win round one at a decently high clip because he is so explosive and he comes out hot. But if you watch Fiziev's fights, man, he slows down after round one. We saw it heavily against Justin Gaethje in the last fight. We saw it against Justin Gaethje, in their first fight too. He dropped that round three, and that's what made, all the difference in the world. Ignacio Bahamondes is a guy who comes on stronger as the fight goes on. So if Fiziev gets a little bit tired, he's not as quick as he once was after the injury. Bahamondes, while it's standing, I think he's going to start to find a lot of success in round two and in round three. And I don't think Fiziev is really exempt from getting knocked out. I mean, he's been finished twice by knockout or TKO in his career. Bahamondes, has shown that he's got some hands for sure. He's got a little bit of a submission game too. So I'm going to take the younger guy who's got more momentum, Ignacio Bahamondes, on the money line. That's going to be the official play for this fight. And now we're getting to the main event. Jamal Hill, Khalil Rountree. I've got mixed feelings about this one too because, I saw a post the other day that talked about how Jamal Hill's wins are all, basically bullshit in the UFC because a lot of them come against guys who are no longer in the UFC. I mean, you got the Anthony Smiths of the world. Who else was on there? Oh, Glover Teixeira. They said Glover was super old when they fought, but he was setting records when he fought Glover. I mean, Jamal Hill set a significant strike record in that fight. Insane pace, insane volume, and Glover just couldn't keep up whatsoever. Johnny Walker ends up finishing him. He's not done well in the UFC. Thiago Santos no longer in the UFC. So yeah, man, I see a lot of that hate. And sorry, it wasn't Alex Smith or Anthony Smith. That's who Khalil Rountree beat. I was thinking of Jimmy Crute when he beat him in round one. But these are guys might not be the best in the UFC, but at one time, Johnny Walker was very highly thought to be a great prospect in this division. Jimmy Crute was getting some love. Thiago Santos, a guy who fought for the title against John Jones. Glover Teixeira, say what you want about his age. That guy almost went out there and beat Yuri Prohaska in a 5-round title fight. So, Jamal Hill, I think that's a great win for him there. For Khalil Rountree, I look at his record very similarly. I don't think any of the guys he's beat, Anthony Smith retired, Chris Dawkins no longer in the UFC, beat Dustin Jacoby in what was a lot of people was calling a robbery. Carl Roberson no longer in the UFC. Modestas Bukauskas just got a super close decision win over Ion Kudalaba. Marcin Prachnio, not the best. He's not exactly fighting the best of the best and beating them either. He got the Alex Pereira title shot after being 8 or 9 in the division. It's not like he was the number one contender or anything like that. So, Jamal Hill has touched gold before. He's dealt with some injuries that have to make you a little bit, weary about taking him. I get it. But looking at his loss against Alex Pereira, Pereira's beat basically everybody except for Ankalaev and Israel Adesanya that one time. He loses to Yuri Prohaska by round 3 TKO. Yuri had a great first round. Jamal Hill worked himself back into that second round, and I believe took that second round on all the judges' scorecards. Had a super good round too. And then, obviously the finish later, but I guess for Khalil Rountree, he does a lot of his good work in round 1, round 2. But this is a 5-round fight. We saw what happened against Alex Pereira. He had a beautiful first 2 rounds and just started eating a few big shots, and it all started kind of crumbling down for him, and then he got finished. So for when I look at Jamal Hill, yeah, he's obviously got the knockout power at any time in the fight, but where he excels is when he can keep fights standing on the feet and just let his hands go, because he throws a ton of volume, a lot more volume than most fighters in this division, and it shows how good his cardio is because he can do it for all 5 rounds, whereas I don't think Khalil Rountree can. Jamal Hill lands over 7 significant strikes per minute, which is a ton for this division, and Khalil Rountree lands 3.7. That's a big, big difference there. And he's landing them at 53%. So this guy's throwing almost 15 significant strikes per minute. you do the math over the course of 5 rounds. I don't think it matters if Khalil's landing the bigger shots. I mean, he's going to get outlanded like 300 to 100 if that keeps up. So I think Khalil's got to finish him in the first 2. And if not, Jamal's going to really, really take over this fight. So I'm going with Jamal Hill as the slight underdog right now at plus 110. I think there's value there. I think people are overlooking him. I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. But again, you look at Khalil's striking, and not only does he just not land that much volume, he gets hit with 4.1 significant strikes per minute. So he's got a negative striking differential, meaning he's getting touched up more than he's landing. And I don't really think that's a great sign against the guy who is a very volume heavy, but also has some power in there as well. I mean, striking defense 48% for Khalil Rountree, not the greatest in the world. So, and I don't think Khalil's exactly exempt from getting knocked out either. So I think Jamal could win by knockout. I think he could extend this fight and really pour on the volume later in the fight to either one, sway the judges, or just win those last 3 rounds. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he doesn't win in round 1 or 2. So yeah, I think Khalil's being a little, not that he's being over-respected or anything here. I just think people forget a few things that Jamal Hill has done in his UFC career, and they're throwing it all out the window because he lost to Alex Pereira and Yuri Prohaska. I mean, those are 2 of the best fighters in the entire world, and now you're getting Khalil Rountree, a guy who's was number 8, and he took a loss to Pereira, and now he's number 5. So you do the math there, but yeah, I'm going to go with Jamal Hill. I'm going to fade the public with this one. Can Khalil go out there and knock him out? Absolutely, but I think more often than not, this thing hits the 3rd round. And once it hits the 3rd round, I think Jamal Hill is really going to start to look good. So give me Jamal Hill for the pick. And that is the end of the One Bet Show this week. If you guys want to get all of my bets for next week or for this upcoming week, just go to winnable.com and use code, where are we? Baku? Yeah, use code Baku. And you're going to get a 5-day free trial for new users. See all of my bets for free. See all of Hey Jive Picks bets. And you're going to get into our premium Discord. And if you like it, stick around. If you don't, make sure to cancel your subscription. I don't want you to accidentally get charged, because that's how the free trial works. You get on, you enter your card information, and you don't get charged until after that trial. So if you just want to hit and run us, that's completely fine. Log in, put your card information, get all of our plays, and cancel it after that so you don't get charged. But if I have a feeling you're going to want to stick on, we got a good group of guys. We have a lot of people giving out free plays in our Discord as well. Some bigger names in the community. So join the Discord, winnable.com/HOF picks, and use code Baku for that promotion here. All right, next, again, better picks. Code Nolan, 100% deposit bonus. Try to 100 extra money. This is the best way you could possibly support me, support my channel and all that I do. I'm never going to ask for money, handouts, anything like that. But, if you guys do want to support, just use code Nolan on better picks. And, that helps me out a ton. Appreciate you guys all being here. I think we hit 9,000 views on the last video, which is tied with my best ever. So I know I'm getting this video out one day late, but funny enough, earlier in the day today, my town got hit by a tornado. It was like a half mile from my house. I didn't get any damage, nothing like that. Everybody's good. My kids are good. They were a little bit scared, but I lost power for like 8 hours. No internet, no nothing. So I couldn't do the content I wanted. I couldn't upload. I couldn't film. So, it took a little bit longer this week to get the video out, so I apologize for that. But I appreciate all of you for waiting around for this. Let's have another big week. We're 2 weeks in a row where we hit 8 bets on each card. If I'm hitting 8 bets per card, I'll take that every week for the rest of the year, because that just means we're making profit. So thank you to you guys. Much love, much respect. Drop a comment, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe. And although we didn't do bad last week, so we're not doing a giveaway this week, for UFC 317, I'll do a giveaway of some Ghost product no matter what, win or lose this weekend. But I'm going to make you comment on this video to enter that giveaway. So again, hit that comment. We're going to give away some cool stuff from Ghost Energy, Ghost Hydration, Ghost Lifestyle, hats, energy drinks. I got some protein, greens, creatine, all that good stuff. So make sure you drop a comment, hit the like button, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week for UFC 317. It's going to be a big one. We'll see you then.